from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay, a rough start for this year's peanut crop, followed by high heat.
We're also close to about 15 days above 95.
We head into the fields to check on this year's crop. The threat of more flooding moves downstream in the Midwest.
Prices are improving, but is it enough to help dairy farmers and some of the challenges they've been through over the past couple of years? We talk with experts at World Dairy Expo.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado and the all-new Silverado HD, the strongest, most advanced family of Silverados ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The dairy world right now is focused on the World Dairy Expo. And while last year there was a lot of concern about trade and prices, this year we're seeing a bit of a rebound. AgDay national correspondent Betsy Gibbon joins us from Madison, Wisconsin. Betsy, prices seem to have finally cracked out of the $17 range.
Clinton, milk prices are improving overall, with the Class 3 near-term contracts hanging in that $18 range. But when you ask analysts at World Dairy Expo the biggest issue, they say it's still price.
I think the real problem is at $18, it's probably good enough for a long-term average. But we've got folks that really need to restore their balance sheets. The balance sheets have been damaged over these last 4 years with borrowing additional money.
The margins have only improved slightly. So there's definitely some improvement in overall profitability at the farm, but we have not seen this big, robust recovery that we're going to need to offset some of the equity losses that have taken place in the last several years.
USDA is forecasting a brighter picture when it comes to milk prices in 2020, and both of these analysts expect the same too. Reporting at World Dairy Expo in Madison, Wisconsin, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
The USDA extended the deadline last month for farmers to sign up for the new Dairy Margin Coverage Program. At that time, more than 21,000 producers had already signed up. That's out of about 40,000 that are eligible for the program. But USDA reports only 1,400 more producers signed up during the extension. Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue talking about that while at the World Dairy Expo.
I don't know whether farmers are still thinking about the old program or not. This is a totally new program. It's a much better risk management tool for dairymen, and I frankly can't understand anyone, certainly anyone that's producing less than 5 million pounds of milk, not participating in this program.
USDA leaders say they made phone calls, sent out postcards and emails letting producers know about the program. Dairy industry groups have also been sharing information. Secretary Perdue also talking about possible changes to the H-2A farm worker visa program. Perdue suggesting immigration legislation could make H-2A workers available year-round. That's something pushed by the dairy sector along with lower wage rates. Now Perdue saying, quote, "We're hoping to have an opportunity to address not only the seasonability issue but also the adverse wage rate." Could we soon see an announcement from the White House when it comes to ethanol? Bloomberg reporting the Trump administration has agreed to a plan for increasing mandates under the renewable fuel standard while also offsetting those waivers given to oil refineries. Under the plan, Bloomberg reports the EPA would factor in those recent waivers into new yearly biofuel quotas. It would do this by using a 3-year rolling average. Reuters says the effort now is not expected to contain a cap on prices for renewable identification numbers. It also says the announcement could come next week. As if they haven't seen enough rain this year, farmers in the Midwest are preparing for more flooding this week, and those floodwaters are powerful. Just look at this video shot by Mitch Adams. Watch as the Norfolk Southern Railroad Bridge in Brunswick, Missouri is swept away by raging water and debris pushing up against it. Farm Journal's Tyne Morgan joins me. Tyne, all that water on top of more water is a bad combination for many producers.
Yeah, Clinton, the Missouri River and the tributaries that lead into the Missouri River were already full. The last thing the water system needed was more water, and that's exactly what's on the way. Check out this photo. Keith Kinney lives in Northwest Missouri. He says in 2 days, they had 8 inches of rain soaking that area over the weekend. That, along with all the water needing to be pushed out of the reservoir in South Dakota, caused this. flooding in the Missouri River bottoms. Andrew Cowherd captured this video as the water was rising on Monday in the river bottoms in Carroll County, Missouri. But look at these maps. More water is on the way. This is from the National Weather Service, the forecast over the next 7 days. And as you can see, a large amount of that water falling along the Missouri River waterway. And this is the forecast for the Kansas City area over the next couple days. 2 to 3 inches, 3 to 4 inches in the Kansas area. Just more water piling onto a system that's already full.
So, Tyne, how long is this flooding supposed to last?
That's the thing, Clinton. There's so much water in that reservoir in South Dakota that needs to be pushed downstream. And you remember all that snowfall that we had last weekend in the west? Well, that snow is now going into the reservoir. And so in a system that's trying to get rid of water, it's still getting water in it. And right now it's a race against Mother Nature as winter quickly approaches.
Soybean harvest isn't real far along, but there are fields being cut, including out in Nebraska, as Cindy Clausen shows us in today's Crop Comment. Cindy.
Yes, check out this video from Megan Carlson of Marquette, Nebraska. Now, she shared this video on Twitter from a beautiful blue sky day. As you can see, soybean harvest is rolling in the Cornhusker State. According to the latest crop progress report, 6% of the state's soybeans have been harvested. That's 11 points behind the 5-year average, which makes sense. Maturities are behind as well. Just 3/4 of the state's beans are dropping leaves. Last year, it was over 90%. Let's look at your wind forecast as we head through the day today. It's going to be the nation's midsection with some breezier conditions as we head through our Thursday. And you can see those winds moving into the Great Lakes area as well. And they're starting to pick up in the western U.S. as we get into the latter part of the day. Into the overnight hours we go. We start to see those winds really picking up in the central and northern plains, also out into the mid-Atlantic states as well. And that's going to continue as we get into Friday from the plains into the Intermountain West as well. Coming up, I'll have your national forecast.
All right, coming up, we head back out to World Dairy Expo, where the focus continues to be on prices and where they could be in the future. And later, it will be peanut harvest time soon in Georgia. We check in on that crop, and it's had to weather a series of blistering hot days.
Hey y'all, Justin Moore here. Get ready to kick up some dust with the Roxor Dirt Roads and a Country Show sweepstakes. Enter now for a chance to win a customized off-road Roxor and 2 VIP tickets to one of my upcoming concerts. Visit roxoroffroad.com/Justin Moore.
John Deere is laying off 163 employees at 2 factories. The factories are in East Moline, Illinois and Davenport, Iowa. Officials attributing the job cuts to market conditions. The Harvester Works plant in East Moline manufactures combines and front-end equipment. The Davenport Works plant builds construction and forestry products. National reporter Betsy Gibbons spending a few days at World Dairy Expo this week, where she caught up with Mark Stevenson, the Director of Dairy Policy Analysis at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. She asked him about milk prices and the outlook going forward.
Mark, let's talk about prices, because right now some of those milk contracts are over in the $18 range. Is that sustainable for some of these dairies here in the U.S.?
For some of the dairies it is. You know, we do see about a $10 range in the cost of production every year. We collect hundreds of farm level financial records. It shocks me, you know, to see that kind of range, but we do see it. On our larger farms, the range isn't that big. But on the smaller farms, we do see costs of production as low as on the best large farms. So they get to it in different ways, but they can have low costs of production too.
When we look at those prices and where they are right now, it's still not a surprise that there is some consolidation in the industry. But with that boost, you would say, compared to what we had a couple of years ago, are we still seeing consolidation as much?
Oh, we certainly are. You know, consolidation is hardly headline news story for the dairy industry. That's been going on for a long time. I'll just use Wisconsin as an example because it's home and I know the numbers a little better. It's ordinary for us to see between 3.5% and 4% farm loss every year, year over year. And that's been going on since the 1930s when we had a peak in dairy farm numbers. But at this point in time, we're seeing something very close to a 10% attrition rate. That's a much larger rate than is normal for us. And, you know, it's just a good indication how bad things are.
Now I need to ask you about 2020 prices. USDA has a better outlook rather for 2020. What are you forecasting from what you're seeing right now?
Well, I've had a better outlook for 2020 for more than a year. I mean, we do some models, that try to look at different, kind of like projecting hurricane pads, right? You have different models and they give you slightly different outcomes, but all of them are pointing toward 2020 toward being a better milk price year. 2019 was a recovery year. We knew that was going to happen. 2020, I suspect, will be even better.
All right, well, there you go. There we have it. Thank you. Appreciate the time, and we'll be back with more Ag Day here in just a moment.
Hey y'all, Justin Moore here. Get ready to kick up some dust with the Roxor Dirt Roads and a Country Show sweepstakes. Enter now for a chance to win a customized off-road Roxor and 2 VIP tickets to one of my upcoming concerts. Visit roxoroffroad.com/Justin Moore.
Meteorologist Cindy Clausen taking a look at the weather map for us. And Cindy, this system's been really slow moving, bringing rain for people that don't really need it.
Exactly, and we're still seeing some pretty chilly air on the backside of that, and a lot of us don't need that as well. A lot of that moisture that we're going to see today is going to be around this low pressure system, but we're still going to see showers and thunderstorms along our front that drapes all the way down into the Four Corners region. We'll see a fair amount of rain and maybe even some flakes mixing in as you get towards the Canadian border. A little bit of unsettled weather in the Pacific Northwest, but as we head through the day, we'll notice that high pressure settling in, drying things out in the upper Midwest, but we'll see those cooler temperatures continuing. Front moves to the east. We'll see the rain and even a little bit of snow in those far northern reaches of the Great Lakes and into the southern part of Canada. That's all moving on to the east. We still see that moisture, though, especially over towards New Mexico, as we see that moisture streaming up from Mexico. As we get into the western United States, the Northwest, still a little bit of rain and maybe some higher elevation snow activity. Heading through into our Friday, we're going to be seeing high pressure settling into the nation's midsection there as that low moves on off to the east through the day on Friday. High pressure in the Great Lakes, but yet another low is going to start coming into the Plains states, so look for some more wet weather then as we get into Friday and then into the weekend. Let's look at the last 24 hours, though. There's been a fair amount, especially in parts of the Corn Belt where we really don't need it right now. We actually need some of those warmer temperatures, but it's been awfully cool on the backside of that front. We've had a fair amount of rain in the upper Midwest, parts of the northern plains as well, some of that coming in the form of snow. But you can see the next 24 hours are going to bring more rain all along that front, especially as you get into parts of the central Corn Belt, down into the central and southern plains and into the Four Corners region. That's where we see the heaviest rainfall. Snowfall, we've had a little bit in parts of North Dakota and some of the higher elevations as you get into the northern parts of the Rockies. Not a whole lot to add to that over the next 24 hours, mainly in those higher elevations. Temperature-wise, still a really, really big difference. 42 in Bismarck, but we're looking at mid-90s as you get down south. Just that hot, humid air is continuing, and just much below normal air is in the north central United States. Moving into the overnight hours, temperatures getting back down into the 30s in spots in the north central United States. Still that very mild air in the 60s and 70s down south. For tomorrow, we're going to see fewer 90s, but we start to see some cooler temperatures as that front continues to push on off to the east. We see the jet stream there, and things kind of flatten out a little bit for us, but another trough comes in for the weekend into the nation's midsection there. Look for some warmer temperatures a little bit anyway as we get into the east, but another trough cools us down for the end of the weekend and into the early part of next week in parts of the north central and northeastern United States. And then as we get into next week, yet another trough comes in for the middle part of next week. That's your national forecast. Now let's check on the weather where you live. Fort Sumner, New Mexico, cooler with some showers and thunderstorms and a high of 64 degrees. Pipestone, Minnesota, cloudy and cool, a high of 51 degrees. And Forest City, Pennsylvania, much cooler for you with some rain, high of 51.
You need to cut back on eating red meat for your health, right? Well, not according to a new international study that's already raising eyebrows. Plus, confusion reigns when it comes to what diet and sustainability mean. Next in our Drovers Report.
Join Andrew McRae for Farming the Countryside, a farmer-focused podcast that is all about production agriculture. Farming the Countryside is available wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and is brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, the world's largest provider of crop inputs and services.
We've heard it for years, public health officials urging people to eat less red meat and processed meats because of health concerns. But now, an international group of researchers is saying that advice may not be entirely right. Their research, published in the Annals of Internal Medicine, the group saying that the health benefits from eating less beef and pork are small. So small, they can only be found when looking at larger populations. But the New York Times, it's reporting that the results of this study are being met with criticism. Scientists at Harvard warning the conclusions, quote, harm the credibility of nutrition science and erode public trust in scientific research, end quote. Now, a past chair of the American Health Association's Nutrition Committee calling the research fatally flawed. And a new survey shows many people are confused about what sustainability actually means when it comes to diet and the environment. However, many of those surveyed believe they can get closer to sustainability goals if they eat more plant-based foods. That's despite nearly all of them eating meat. 4 in 10 adults said they aren't sure whether a sustainable diet is the same as an environmentally sustainable one. That's according to this study by the International Food Information Council.
92% of respondents consume animal-based protein, yet 72% say they eat plant-based protein too. More than 1/4 said eating in a healthier and more environmentally sustainable way means consuming more protein from plants.
When asked to define what environmentally sustainable proteins means, half of all those asked cited no added hormones, while 40% said grass-fed animals and 32% mentioned locally raised. Georgia has been dealing with several days of high heat. We check in on what this means for the state's peanut crop when we come back.
Hey y'all, Justin Moore here. Get ready to kick up some dust with the Roxor Dirt Roads and a Country Show sweepstakes. Enter now for a chance to win a customized off-road Roxor and 2 VIP tickets to one of my upcoming concerts. Visit roxoroffroad.com/Justin Moore.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
Every year, peanut growers, researchers, and industry leaders from around the world gather for the Georgia Peanut Tour. Damon Jones from our friends over at Georgia Farm Monitor tells us what kind of crop they're expecting this year.
With nearly half of the nation's peanut production coming from right here within the state, it's essential that growers stay in tune with the latest research. That's why the annual Georgia Peanut Tour is so significant, as it keeps them up to date on an ever-changing industry.
You know, we've been growing peanuts a long time. Growers know what they're doing, but there's slight just changes, just things. And so we try to get out the information, as quick as we can, but we don't always get it out to everybody. So the more people are a part of tours like this, the more information we can get out to them.
And the big change this year was the hot, dry conditions during the growing season that provided a major challenge for the growers.
I think we're close to 80 or 90 days above 90-degree temperatures. We're also close to about 15 days above 95. So you can see very, very hot. But to go with that, we hadn't had widespread rain showers or rain events across the state, in some places 8-9 weeks.
Even though that caused dryland crop to be hit or miss across the state, the outlook for irrigated peanuts looks much brighter, as farmers are expecting yet another strong yield.
When you can control some of the environmental influences like disease and insects and the moisture when you need it, you can produce this good crop. And that's what we're seeing with irrigated now. Will it be record yields on the irrigated? We're not sure yet. But from what I've seen come out of the ground right this minute, looks very good.
With summer turning into fall, growers are now preparing for their harvest season. And one of the major things they need to be aware of is just how much the dry conditions might speed up the process.
Any peanut that you dig right now and put on the ground, it's not taking 5 to 7 days like it normally does to dry them down. It's taking 2 to 3, 4 days, depending on what the moisture was to begin with.
And with such a big difference between the dryland and irrigated crops this year, it's more important than ever to take precautions when gathering up the nuts.
We're sitting in an irrigated field right here, but we've got dryland corners. So do not harvest those and blend them with the irrigated crop, because we know you got a lot of risk. Even in good areas, we got a lot of risk with how hot and dry it's been for 1 or 2 peanuts to have aflatoxin issues.
Reporting from Sumter County, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
And our thanks to the Georgia Farm Monitor for sharing that story. That's all the time we have this morning. Sure glad you tuned in. Spend part of your day with us. From all of us here, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.
Ag Day, brought to you by the Milk Business Conference. Don't miss this dairy business-focused event November 11th and 12th, 2019 in Las Vegas. Register today at milkbusinessconference.com.